Well, tomorrow is November 7th, 30 days since Hamas launched its brutal attack on Israel. Christians and Jews worldwide are coming together to fight the spiritual battle for the Jewish state. Rabbis, Christian leaders, and members of Israel's Knesset will gather at the Great Synagogue in Jerusalem tonight for Israel's National Day of Prayer. Joining us now is Tuli Wise. He's an Orthodox rabbi who's spearheading the event. And Rabbi Wise, thank you so much for joining with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Can you tell us what will happen tonight at the event?
Well, tonight is the 30-day anniversary of the October 7th massacre. And in the Jewish tradition, we mark 30 days as a time where the mourning period, to some extent, diminishes. And so every death is followed by a 30-day, it's called in Hebrew the Shloshim. So we're going to be having the Shloshim ceremony at the Great Synagogue this evening. We're going to hear from rabbis, Christian leaders, and Knesset members, along with Rachel Goldberg, whose son, Hirsch Goldberg, is an American citizen, 23 years old, and is currently now abducted by Hamas in Gaza.
So why is it important for Christians to stand with Israel right now?
Christians understand that their fate is linked with the fate of the Jewish people and with Israel. We have seen in our lifetime such great miracles, God returning the people of Israel to the land of Israel, a fulfillment of biblical promises that shows that God keeps his promises and that he is active in our world. And Christians have been supporting Israel for decades because it is the greatest sign of the eternity of the Bible and God's promises. And so Christians are with us in our fight against radical Islam and our fight against evil. The Hamas terrorists and radical Islam, they are not shy about expressing their views, first the Saturday people and then the Sunday people.
Well, how should people be praying for Israel today?
The best way is through the words of King David. That's the prayers that we have been saying since October 7th. We have been pouring our hearts into the prayers and into the Psalms. And King David's words and through the Psalms is what unites us. In Israel today, the posters that are everywhere, the whole country is covered in blue and white posters that say in Hebrew two words, Yachad Nenatzeach, which means together we will win. Together, we will win. And we're seeing unprecedented levels of unity here in Israel. And as a rabbi who works with the Christian population through my organization, Israel 365, I believe Yachad Nenatzeach, together we will win, also refers to the spiritual partnership between Christians and Jews. Together, we will win.
Talk about, it seems like we've lost the public relations war, if you will, on streets in London, streets in New York City. I still can't get over how the universities in America have turned into pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel rallies. What can we do to, I guess, educate them about the history of Israel? And then how can we turn them from being pro-Palestinian to say, no, Israel has a right to exist?
Well, that is the challenge of our generation. We have given up to a large extent. We have seen Hollywood turn against us and turn against our values, and we have not done enough to prevent that. And as a result, foreign entities are investing not millions, but billions of dollars in re-educating, manipulating, and misinforming our next generation. And the results are terrifying. I think that what needs to be done is something that the Jewish people and Christians, faithful Christians, are doing. And that is teaching our children our values, teaching our kids the Bible. And by doing so, we will prevail. It seems like we're losing the public relations war, but I think that what we're seeing is a lot of hype and a lot of misinformation. The elements that are protesting, they're protesting very loudly, but they do not represent the majority of Americans who are repulsed at the level of ignorance and evil that they're seeing in their own college campuses. And I think what's going to trigger a bounce back in the right direction.
Well, we're also in a spiritual war, and it's great that you've called for a national day of prayer. Thank you, Rabbi Wise. We will join with you in this and join in this effort. The National Day of Prayer for Israel is happening tonight in Jerusalem. You can watch it on the CBN News YouTube channel. And I encourage you to join in. Let us pray together. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Well, here's something that I want to remind people of, the history of Israel. And it goes back to Theodore Herzl, who in 1896 published a book called The Jewish State. He came to the realization that Jews would never be received as equal citizens in Europe. It was the background of the pogroms in the Pale of Russia, where under Tsarist Russia, Jews were targeted, and these were defenseless people, civilians, living in their villages, living peacefully, and they would come through and they would murder them. In response, Great Britain's proposed a Uganda solution where we'll resettle Jews in Africa. That was rejected by the Jewish people. And Herzl came out with this wonderful book, and in that, he had an aspiration. And it started the World Jewish Congress and the modern Zionist movement. When you get the history and you get the aspirations, it really just underlines how much we need to support the state of Israel. Here's what Herzl closed his book with. We shall live at last as free men on our own soil and die peacefully in our own homes. The world will be freed by our liberty, enriched by our wealth, magnified by our greatness, and whatever we attempt there to accomplish for our own welfare will react powerfully and beneficially for the good of humanity. Now, that was printed in 1896, and it has come to pass. Israel is a light to the nation. It is a startup nation with all kinds of inventive ideas. It is a nation that believes in life and believes in bringing help and hope to people around the world. They've done humanitarian missions to over 140 countries. When disasters strike, Israel volunteers are usually on the ground within 24 hours. It's because they fear God and they look to God for solutions. So let's join in prayer tonight. Let's join in prayer today. Let's join in prayer every day and read through Psalm 122. Let us pray for the peace of Jerusalem.